We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality. Seneca. People who are afraid of death often find it hard to make other people's lives better. Life is like a big stage that's full of obstacles and unknowns, and it can seem impossible to live a great life. Despite all the chaos, there is a lasting philosophy that gives us the strength to not only survive, but also thrive. This way of thinking is called stoicism, and it comes from old Greek philosophy. It has helped many people through history by giving them strength, knowledge, and peace. We're going on a journey today, not just any trip, one that goes to the heart of what it means to live an amazing life. Stoicism, a philosophy that goes back to the early 3rd century BC, is more than just a set of views or ethical claims. It's a way of life that is guided by the deep lessons of some of the most famous Stoic philosophers. It teaches people how to control their emotions and be strong so they can get over bad feelings. The philosophy says that virtue, like learning, is happiness, and that actions, not words, should be used to judge people. That we are responsible for our own actions and cannot depend on what happens in the outside world. But what does this old philosophy have to do with today? Stoicism helps us reconnect with what really matters: our character, our deeds, and how we see the world in an era when chasing outward success can leave us feeling empty and unsatisfied. It's about finding peace in a world we can't change, focusing on getting better instead of getting rich, and becoming strong when bad things happen. Basically, this philosophy gives us the tools we need to live a worthwhile and amazing life. We will look at 7 important lessons from some of the most famous Stoic philosophers. In each part, a key idea of this philosophy will be explained, along with suggestions for how we can use these lessons in our everyday lives. Through the lessons of Zeno, who created Stoicism, and through the deep insights of Marcus Aurelius, whose thoughts are a timeless guide to living with grace and purpose, our journey will take us through interesting times. Epicurus taught us how to tell the difference between things we can control and things we can't. Seneca taught us about the power of being strong. Epictetus will help us understand how our feelings work better, and Musonius Rufus will teach us about the importance of discipline. Even though each person has their own unique point of view, their lessons all lead to the same goal: becoming special. This is not about becoming extraordinary in the eyes of others. It's about becoming extraordinary in our ability to deal with life's difficulties, stay true to our principles, and find peace and power within ourselves. As we go through these lessons, we will see how Stoic philosophy is still useful today. You will learn how these old ideas have been used in current business, psychology, and even the self-help movement. We will talk about how the Stoic practices of being aware and controlling our emotions can improve our mental health and well-being as a whole. The Stoics believed that the study of virtue could lead to a life full of meaning and satisfaction. This is what we will learn first. The goal of this trip is not just to learn, but also to change. It's about using what we've learned from the past to make a better, more exciting future for ourselves in music. You should think about how the lessons in this book relate to your own life as we go through each one. Think about the problems you're having, the things you care about, and the life you want to live. Remember that becoming amazing is a process, not a place you get to. It's an ongoing process of learning about yourself, getting better, and mastering yourself. And the first step is to understand and use the deep lessons of Stoicism. Then, let's start this trip together. Let's look around, learn, and get bigger. Let us get ideas from the Stoics' knowledge and use it to make our own way to a great life. Music, music. Welcome to this intellectual journey. Our first stop is Zeno, who is known as the founder of Stoicism. In the 3rd century BC, Zeno was born in Cyprus. His path to Stoicism began when his ship sank, and he ended up in Athens. It was there, among the broken pieces of his earthly things, that he found the real wealth of philosophy. His lessons, which later became known as stoicism, didn't come from intellectual thought. Instead, they came from real-life problems and the search for meaning in life. This famous quote from Zeno sums up his philosophy: "Well-being is realized by small step, but is truly no small thing." This deep statement shows how the Stoics believed that living a good life should be done slowly and steadily. He didn't call for big shows of knowledge or changes that happen quickly. Instead, he pushed the idea of doing small acts of goodness every day that add up over time and make a big difference in your health and happiness. At the heart of what he taught were basic ideas that would shape Stoicism. Living in tune with nature is the first of these. He thought this meant noticing and being in tune with the world's natural order and knowing our place in it. It was about going with the flow of life and figuring out our own place in the bigger picture of things. This connection with nature isn't just about caring about the environment. It's also about knowing what humans are naturally like: smart, social people who can be good. To be sure, virtue was at the heart of his philosophy. He said that honor is the best thing and that everything else, including money, health, and even life itself, doesn't matter. This doesn't mean these things aren't important. It just means they aren't good in and of themselves. They're only good when used in a good way. For him, a good life is one that fits with reason, and it is this fit that makes people truly happy. How can we use Zeno's ideas in our everyday lives today? Becoming more simple is the first step. In a world where selfishness and capitalism can be too much for some, going back to simplicity can be a bold act of stoicism. This doesn't mean living a Spartan lifestyle, but it does mean letting go of things that aren't necessary and focused on what's important: our ideals, our relationships, and our personal growth. Another useful thing we can do with his lessons is to make sure that our deeds are in line with our core values. To do this, we have to really think about what we value and then make sure that our actions every day represent these beliefs. It has to do with being real and having a life that matches our values and views. This connection makes us feel at peace and honest because what we do and what we believe in don't clash. Finally, one important part of living in harmony with nature and morals is practicing awareness. Stoics believe that mindfulness means being fully present in the present moment, aware of ourselves and our surroundings, and moving with purpose and reason. It's about being aware of how our ideas, feelings, and deeds fit in with nature and our journey toward virtue. Mindfulness helps us deal with life's problems calmly and clearly, instead of responding emotionally or on the spur of the moment. The lessons that Zeno taught us give us a strong foundation for living an amazing life. We can take small, steady steps toward happiness and virtue by accepting simplicity, making sure our actions are in line with our core values, and practicing awareness. Through incorporating these practices into our daily lives, we eventually change into people who not only survive life's ups and downs, but also thrive on them, rooted in knowledge and inner peace. Music. Lesson 2. Accept that things change. As our trip through the knowledge of Stoicism continues, we come across Marcus Aurelius, a person who best represents the Stoic ideal. Aurelius was a Roman emperor and a staunch Stoic philosopher. He was also known as the Philosopher King. He was wise and good during his rule, even though he had to deal with constant problems like war, plague, and political unrest. His private works, collected in Meditations, show us into the mind of a man who looked for peace during troubled times. He wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." This stark warning of how short life is a core theme of his philosophy. It's a call to live quickly, not out of fear of death, but because we know that each moment is valuable and short. He thought of life as a short chance to be good and make the world a better place. His ideas about how things change and how to accept them are especially useful in this day and age, when things are always changing and can be too much to handle. Marcus Aurelius shows us that change is not only important to life, but also something that can't be avoided. Change is what makes us grow, teaches us new things, and gives us the chance to put our values to the test. His advice is to accept change as a normal process that is a part of everything in the world and not fight it. He himself stuck to this philosophy by keeping a diary, which is a useful way to follow it. Writing in a journal lets us think about our daily lives, how we deal with change, and how we're doing at following Stoic ideals. It helps us think about ourselves and get better by giving us a place to write down our feelings and thoughts, make plans, and see how we're growing over time. Writing in a book can help us become more quiet, gain clarity, and find inner peace. Another useful thing we can learn from Aurelius is to think of change as a normal process. In order to do this, we need to stop seeing change as something bad or scary and start seeing it as a normal, necessary part of life. Realizing that everything is always changing can help us be less resistant to it and more flexible and strong. This point of view helps us deal with the unknowns in life and find security within ourselves, no matter what is going on around us. Marcus Aurelius may have taught us the most important lesson: live in the present. His words tell us that the present moment is all we really have, even though we are often caught up in the past or worried about the future. He tells us to focus on the present moment, use our best judgment, be good, and enjoy it to the fullest. Being fully present helps us connect with life on a deeper level, enjoy the little joys and wonders around us, and deal with problems with clarity and calm. His lessons about accepting change and welcoming death are not just abstract ideas. They are real-world tips for living a happier, more worthwhile life. We can develop a strong, flexible, and deeply connected mind by writing in a notebook, thinking about how things change over time, and focused on the moment. By doing this, we respect Aurelius's memory and take a big step toward becoming unique in our own way. Music. The power of being strong is the third lesson. Seneca is one of the most important figures in Stoic philosophy because he was so wise and useful. Seneca was a Stoic philosopher, politician, and writer who worked as an advisor to Emperor Nero. Even though he had a rough life that ended with him being forced to kill himself, his works are still a great source of advice on how to live a good and strong life. Seneca once said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." This powerful quote sums up how he dealt with suffering and strength. He didn't see life's problems as bad things that happened to him, but as chances to learn and become stronger. He thought that mental and emotional difficulties made the mind and heart stronger, just like physical training did for the body. By looking into what he taught about being resilient, we find a philosophy that is very important to the problems we face today. Being able to turn difficulty into a source of strength is very important in a world where stress and trouble are common partners. He teaches us that how we deal with problems is what makes the experience real. The important thing is not the event itself, but how we react to it. One way that Seneca's ideas can be used in real life is to learn how to see problems as possibilities. To do this, we need to change how we think about hard things. Instead of seeing them as problems, we should see them as chances to be good, learn, and grow. A failure at work, for example, can be seen as a chance to rethink our job path, learn new skills, or make ourselves stronger. By changing the way we think about problems in this way, we can not only deal with them better, but also learn from them. Seneca says that another important thing you can do when things are hard is to practice thanks. It's easy to forget about the good things in our lives, But if we carefully notice and appreciate what we do have, whether it's good health, helpful relationships, or even small daily pleasures, we can become more happy and strong. Being grateful changes our attention from what we don't have to what we do have, which leads to an attitude of plenty and strength. One of the most important ideas in his philosophy was to find light even in dark times. Probably the most important thing he teaches about being resilient is how to build mental toughness. This means making your mind strong and stable so it can handle the ups and downs of life. Seneca said that you can build mental strength by being self-disciplined, thinking and sticking to stoic beliefs no matter what. It's about training the mind to stay cool and logical when bad things happen, to keep things in perspective, and to stay rooted in our beliefs and morals. This mental toughness isn't something you're born with. You have to practice it regularly and consciously use stoic knowledge. Through his life and lessons, we can learn how to be strong when things get hard. We can not only get through life's problems, but also come out of them stronger and smarter if we see them as chances, practice thanks, and build mental toughness. When we do these things, we gain the strength to deal with problems in a calm and brave way. What could be our biggest failures become our biggest opportunities to grow and learn about ourselves. By following Seneca's teachings, we can create a life that isn't free of problems, but one where problems help us grow and change. This way of thinking about resilience isn't about denying or avoiding suffering. It's about facing it head-on and in a healthy way. It's about realizing that the hardest times are where the most amazing parts of our character are formed. We understand that resilience is not a goal, but a path as we apply this deep knowledge to our daily lives. No matter what life throws at us, we have to keep changing, learning, and growing. By taking a stoic view of resilience, we give ourselves the strength and freedom to handle life's challenges with grace and grit, making each problem into a step toward a more extraordinary life. Fourth lesson, power and choice. This is where our study of Stoic knowledge ends with Epictetus. His life story shows how strong and resilient Stoics can be. Epictetus was born a slave in the Roman Empire and had a hard life with many restrictions. His spirit, on the other hand, stayed strong, and he later got his freedom and became a well-known stern teacher. His lessons, which can be found in the Discourses and the Enchiridion, give us deep understanding of how to be peaceful and what it means to be human. His clear line between what we can control and what we can't may be what he is best known for. He said, "Some things are in our control and others are not." This simple but deep idea is at the heart of Stoic philosophy. His view is that things like our property, image, and even our bodies are not under our control and are therefore not important. The only things that really count are the decisions, opinions, and responses we have inside ourselves. In today's world, where we often spend a lot of time and energy worrying about what other people are doing, this difference is very important. Epictetus tells us to focus our attention and energy on the only thing we can change, our own minds. We can find peace and strength in the face of life's trials and unknowns if we understand and internalize this difference. Focusing on one's own responses and decisions is one way that Epictetus's ideas can be used in real life. Instead of blaming other people or the situation, we need to take responsibility for how we react to what's going on around us. For instance, if we have a failure at work, we don't have to give in to anger or hopelessness. Instead, we can choose to react with drive and creativity. We feel stronger when we change our attention and understand that our inner world is where our real power lives. Another important part of his philosophy is practicing awareness. Being mindful in this case means being aware of all of our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors right now. It's about looking at our inner world without judging it and deciding how to react on purpose. When we practice mindfulness, we can gently bring our attention back to what we can change when we start to worry about things we can't change. This practice not only makes us feel better emotionally, but it also makes it easier for us to follow the rules of stoicism. One of Epictetus's most difficult but freeing lessons is to let go of what other people think will happen. Detaching from results can seem strange in a world where we are often judged by what other people think of us. But he tells us that real freedom and peace come from inside, not from the outside world. We can have a life that is flexible, adaptable, and peaceful if we let go of our commitment to certain results. We learn to do our best without getting too tied to the results, believing that we have the strength to handle anything that comes our way. His lessons on freedom and control give us a strong way to go through life with peace and knowledge. Focusing on our own responses and choices, practicing awareness, and letting go of what other people do can help us build a strong inner core that stays calm and stable no matter what happens in the outside world. Passivity or indifference are not part of this method. Instead, it means being involved with life from a place of inner power and independence. By learning from Epictetus, we can tell the difference between the ups and downs of outside events and the steady flow of our own choices and attitudes. In order to live a truly free and peaceful life, where our happiness and peace are not based on chance but on things we can control, we need to first understand this difference. When we do these things every day, we take control of our lives and can handle the ups and downs of life with grace, courage, and a strong sense of self-empowerment. Part 5. The role of rules and order. As we learn more about the Stoic heritage, we come across Musonius Rufus. He is often overlooked by his more famous Stoic peers, but he was just as important. Rufus, a Roman philosopher who was sometimes called the Roman Socrates, stressed moral living and using philosophy in real life in his lessons. His lessons are not as well known as those of Seneca or Epictetus, but they give us deep insights into the Stoic way of life. Musonius Rufus said, "It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it." This quote shows how important Stoics thought it was to think critically and look at oneself. A big part of what he teaches is how important discipline is for living a quiet life. Rufus thought that discipline was not only a good trait in itself, but also the basis for a good life. He thought that following the rules of Stoicism and being truly happy could not be done without discipline. His focus on control is especially important in today's world, where there are lots of distractions and people usually want things right away. In a world that often puts short-term joys ahead of long-term health and happiness, Rufus's lessons tell us how important it is to be self-controlled and seek out ideals that will last. Setting daily habits is a useful way to apply what he taught us in real life. Structure and order are provided by routines, which give us a way to practice Stoic values. A daily schedule could include time to think, work out, study, and do important things. Sticking to a pattern helps us become more disciplined, which makes sure that our actions are in line with our values and goals. This kind of regularity is important for personal growth and helps us stay focused and strong when life gets hard. Another important thing Rufus teaches is how to control yourself. Stoics say that self-control is not about denying yourself all pleasures. Instead, they say that it's about picking joys that are in line with our values, and that make us happy. It means controlling our urges and wants, and making choices based on facts instead of feeling things or letting outside factors affect our decisions. Being able to control ourselves helps us stay on track with our goals for a good life and avoid temptations that might pull us off track. Another important lesson from Rufus is to put important things ahead of enjoyable things that aren't important. It is very important to be able to tell the difference between what we really need and what we don't need in a world where selfishness and shopping are common. Rufus tells us to focus on things that make our lives better and help us grow, like the fun of learning, the satisfaction of hard work, and the happiness that comes from having good relationships. Putting these basic joys first helps us live a meaningful life, free from the pointless chase of approval from others and material things. By setting daily routines, practicing self-control, and putting important joys first, Musonius Rufus's lessons on discipline are a strong way to deal with the distractions and excesses of modern life. It is possible to live a regulated life that fits with Stoic ideas. This structured way of life helps us concentrate on what's important, builds our character, and gives us a sense of peace and satisfaction. When we learn from Musonius Rufus, we understand that discipline is not a limit, but a freedom. It frees us from the chains of unchecked urges and wants, so we can live with meaning and purpose. We are free to live a good life, reach our full potential, and make a useful difference in the world around us when we are disciplined. By doing these things every day, we live up to the Stoic ideal of living in harmony with nature and reason. This leads to a life that is not only successful in the usual sense, but also deeply satisfying and enriching. Lesson 6. Understanding how emotions work. Next in our series on Stoic knowledge, we'll look at Cyrus, a philosopher whose ideas had a big impact on the Stoic school of thought. Cyrus took over as leader of the Stoic school after Cenes. He was a creative writer and thinker who had a big impact on the intellectual foundations of Stoicism. His work went into a lot more detail about what feelings are and how they affect our lives. This strong quote from him sums up his philosophy: "No one is free who is not master of himself." This quote supports the Stoic view that self-mastery is important, especially over our feelings. Cyrus didn't say that people should hide their feelings. Instead, he said that people should understand them and deal with them in a way that is in line with ethics and reason. These lessons about feelings are very useful in today's world, where feelings affect many choices we make, both individually and as a group. In a society that sometimes praises unrestrained emotional expression, he gives a different view. Feelings should not be feared or let loose without limits, but should be understood, controlled, and in line with our logical nature. Developing emotional intelligence is one way that Cyrus's lessons can be used in real life. Being aware of and knowing your own feelings as well as the emotions of others is part of emotional intelligence. It means being aware of what makes us feel certain emotions and how those emotions affect what we think and do. Building emotional intelligence helps us better understand our feelings and make choices that aren't just based on short-term emotions, but also on sound reasoning and what we believe in. The most important thing to learn from Cyrus is to respond instead of react. In the heat of the moment, it's easy to act without thinking because our feelings are taking over. But he teaches us how important it is to stop, think, and choose how to respond. Being cold or uncaring isn't what this means. Instead, it means recognizing our feelings and then picking a reaction that is in line with our good sense and values. We have more control over our inner world and act in a way that is in line with our values and goals when we respond instead of reacting. Cyrus's lessons on how emotions work are a strong way to learn how to handle your feelings and control yourself. We can deal with life's problems more calmly and wisely if we work on our emotional intelligence, do thoughtful meditation, and choose to respond instead of react. By doing these things, we can better control our feelings and make them work for us instead of against us. By following this great Stoic's advice, we can learn that real freedom comes from inside. It means being able to choose how to react to the things going on around us, to balance our feelings with logic, and to live our lives in line with our core values. As we apply these lessons to our daily lives, we gain control over ourselves and can handle the ups and downs of life with a steady mind and heart. Being in charge of our feelings is not only a way to find peace and health, it's also a key part of living a truly amazing life. Let us think about the deep lessons that these great philosophers taught us, guided by the timeless wisdom of Stoic philosophy. This is the end of our study of Stoic wisdom. Marcus Aurelius taught us how to accept that things change over time, knowing that this should motivate us to live with purpose and urgency. His lessons tell us to enjoy every moment, pay attention to what's important, and let life happen as it will. Seneca had deep thoughts on how to be resilient. He taught us to see problems not as problems to be solved, but as chances to grow and become stronger as people. His wise words teach us to rethink our problems, be thankful, and build strength that can stand up to life's storms. Epictetus makes it clear what we can control and what we cannot control. This gives us a way to find inner peace and strength. He tells us to pay attention to our actions and decisions, be aware, and let go of our connection to what other people do. When we set out to become special, it's important to remember that the road is made up of small steps. To incorporate Stoic practices into our daily lives, we don't have to make big changes. Instead, we just need to make small changes to how we think and act every day. It means making the choice every day to face life's problems with knowledge, to act in line with our beliefs, and to build inner strength and peace. Stoic knowledge doesn't show a straight line to becoming special. It's a process of learning, growing, and changing all the time. Accepting life as it is, finding happiness and purpose in tough times, and building a strong, good, and rooted character are all important parts of this book. Being on this road isn't just about changing yourself, it's also about making a difference in the world and having a happy, important, and rewarding life. As this chapter comes to a close, let us remember the Stoics' lessons. Let their lessons be a lighthouse for us as we seek to live an amazing life. Remember that being good, strong, and having a deep knowledge of yourself and the world are the keys to becoming great. It is a road that anyone can choose to walk. It leads not only to success, but also to a deep sense of meaning and satisfaction. So, as you move forward, remember what Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus taught you. These quotes should motivate you to live each day with purpose, to face life's obstacles with bravery, and to always try to improve yourself.